What's going on, duelists? It's your boy Nick, bringing you today on the channel a combos and test hands video for my Evil Eye Yubel deck for the post Legacy of Destruction format. For those of you new to the channel, welcome. My name is Nick. We do Yu-Gi-Oh content mainly focused around rogue and casual decks alike. If that's the kind of Yu-Gi-Oh that you're interested in, then I highly encourage you to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on any more of my uploads. We are currently working our way to 2,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. So with the intro out of the way, Evil Eye Yubel is a deck that I've been testing with and optimizing pretty rigorously for the past few weeks now. I've taken it to several different locals, and the most recent locals that I went to actually ended up taking second against decks like Tenpai, the Mirror Match, Chimera Illusion, and Snake Eye as well. And this deck honestly is really, really cool. Now, I'm not saying that it's the definitive version to play Yubel or the best Yubel variant. I'm using Evil Eyes as an engine. I know a lot of other Yubel players are using the Beckoning Beast package from the Sacred Beast Structure deck. And those cards are cool, don't get me wrong. They have their pros and cons, kind of in the same vein that Evil Eye does. But I just love Evil Eye so much, and I think it does give the deck a slightly higher ceiling with access to spell trap negation, something that Yubel doesn't inherently have naturally, along with additional negation and just stickier monsters, because a lot of the Evil Eye stuff can't be targeted or be destroyed by card effects or battle. So you just basically have like a towers alongside of your Yubel lineup, which just makes it that much more difficult to interact with. So I'm going to show you guys a bunch of combos. This video might be a little bit longer, so grab some snacks, have a seat, and just enjoy the show, basically. I'm going to be taking you through one-card combos using not only the Evil Eyes, but the Yubel side, and then also showing you 2- and 3-card combos and showing you how the deck actually plays with each other. Because obviously I know a lot of people are unfamiliar with Evil Eye, and I know those of you who are familiar with Yubel probably are questioning how Evil Eye even interacts with Yubel, and I'm just excited to showcase that for you guys today. So, like I said, grab a snack, have a seat, and let's dive headfirst into this. We're going to start with the Evil Eye side of the deck for now. So we're going to do a one-card combo. Now, this one-card combo can actually be started with 3 different cards, actually, and you still achieve the same end board regardless. And those 3 cards are going to be Pareidolia, which is their field spell, Surzeal, who's their starter, and Unleashed, who's basically like a Rhoda/extender of sorts. Now, I max out on all of these cards in this deck. It's a 48-card list. I'll leave a link to the profile, linked in the description below, so make sure you check out the profile if you want to see exactly what the ratios are. But all these cards are playsets, so you basically have 9 ways to access this one-card engine. Technically 10 if you count Terraforming, which we're also playing as a one-of in this particular list. So you have 10 different ways to access this one-card Evil Eye line. So it doesn't really matter what you start with, because really it still ends on the same thing. I guess for the sake of variety, let's just start with the field spell. But realistically, whether you start with Surzeal or Unleashed, it literally gets you to the same combo. And all you need is just the one card. You know, just pick whichever one you want, and then you'll still make the same end goal. So let's just start with the field spell, like I said, for variety's sake. So we're going to activate the field spell here. On activation, it allows us to search for an Evil Eye monster. So we'll go ahead and use that effect to grab our copy of Surzeal. We will then go ahead and normal summon the Surzeal, activate Surzeal's effect to search for an Evil Eye card from the deck to our hand, of which we'll grab Unleashed. Now at this point, we will go ahead and activate the Evil Eyes Unleashed. What this does is it sends an Evil Eye monster and an Evil Eye spell trap from our deck to grave for cost. And then if it resolves, we add an Evil Eye equip spell from the deck to our hand. So really insane card, honestly. And part of the reason why I enjoy the Evil Eye package over the Chaos Beast, the Sacred Beast package, because I just feel like the Evil Eye stuff is so much cooler in my opinion. So we dump Gorgonale and Basiltris for our cost, and I'll explain why we dump those cards specifically momentarily. And then we use this card to go ahead and grab ourselves a copy of our Evil Eye of Selene. Once I find it, there it is, thank you. Now, unfortunately, for the rest of the turn after this card resolves, we take 500 damage for every non-Evil Eye card or effect that we use. Now, because of that drawback, it really depends on how your hand looks, and that's one of the things I'm going to say about this deck right now, is that this deck is extremely difficult to pilot. It really does take somebody who's extremely familiar with both Evil Eye and Yubel to master. This isn't just a deck I feel like anybody can pick up because it is very difficult to pilot and extremely punishing if you're not careful with your sequencing and your lines. Despite the drawback of Unleash though, this card is still insane. And what I do usually, depending on how the hand looks, if I have this card or I search it off Cerseal, I'll hold this card in my hand for as long as possible, and I won't commit it to the field until I know that I've exhausted all of my other lines I wanted to do. That way, when I do activate Unleashed, for the rest of the turn, I'm not punished by the 500 life point drawback because I've already done everything else I've already wanted to do. And oftentimes, because I hold this card so long, this card actually allows me to play through like cards like Nibiru really, really well, and I'll explain a little bit about how that works as we get through the combos, but this card is really insane. So, you know, we send Gorgonale and Basiltris to search Selene. Now, the Basiltris is a quick effect special summon from the hand or grave while we control an Evil Eye monster, and then it does banish itself when it leaves the field after being summoned that way, but during the opponent's turn, it has a quick effect that allows you to link summon into an Evil Eye Link monster using monsters you control, including Evil Eye equips, because you can treat them as monsters for the Link Summon, which is insane. So it's kind of like an archetypal IP Masquerena, and I catch so many people slipping with this card because it's just that powerful. So really insane extender. And then Gorgonale from the graveyard, it can banish itself, and then you discard an Evil Eye card, and Gorgonale allows you to search for any Evil Eye spell trap from deck to hand. So two very insane cards that you get to dump for cost off of Unleashed, which is really, really powerful. So obviously we grab Selene. Now, from this point here, what we usually do is we'll go Graveyard Effect of Basiltris to special, since we control an Evil Eye monster. We'll then use Gorgonale's Grave Effect to banish itself, and then discard an Evil Eye card, which will be the Selene, and we can search for an Evil Eye spell trap here, of which we're usually going to be searching for our copy of Retribution, which is their archetypal counter trap, which is basically a spell trap negate. Now, we didn't have to discard the Selene for the Graveyard Effect of Gorgonale. We could have just kept Gorgonale in grave, forego the search of Retribution, and then just keep the Selene in hand, revive Basiltris, activate Selene, equipping it to Cerseal, and then just pass the turn. Because on the opponent's turn, since Cerseal is equipped, we can quick effect target a special summon monster they control and destroy it. And then once that happens, at any point during their turn, we can use the Basiltris to quick link using both the Cerseal, obviously the equip would fall off to the grave, to make our Gorgon Empress of the Evil Eyed over here, and then that would trigger our graveyard effect of our Unleashed, which when we link summon an Evil Eye Link, we can banish this card from grave, take an Evil Eye equip in our grave, and equip it to the newly summoned monster, which is a really insane trigger effect. So then we also get Gorgon's quick effect to negate an effect monster as a quick effect, which basically means that off of this single card, Pareidolia, we get like a pop and a negate. Now, that's cool, but however, I don't recommend doing that simply because I value the search of Retribution more than the pop off of Cerseal. I think Cerseal is much better when you're going second to try and break an already established field, because obviously your opponent's going to have monsters that were most likely special summoned, and then you can actually use Cerseal's effect to blow stuff up and start breaking the board preemptively. But if you're going first, generally what I like to do is I'll special the Basiltris, like I had said, during your turn. I'll banish the Gorgonale from grave using its effect, pitching the Selene that's in her hand, searching for an Evil Eye spell trap, which will be Retribution, and then I'll link on our turn, instead of using the Basiltris' effect, a quick link on the opponent's turn, we'll just link summon right now into our Gorgon. That will trigger our Unleashed in grave, since we link summon an Evil Eye Link, banishing it to then equip the Selene that's in our graveyard to our Gorgon. But now we have access to Retribution, which is a spell trap negate, which I feel like it's just better to end on Gorgon plus the spell trap negate, because now we don't get punished by cards like Thrust or Talents or Lightning Storm or Evenly. I just think the spell trap negate is just really strong. And mind you, this is off of a one card Pareidolia. You end on a Veiler that can't be targeted or be destroyed by battle or card effects, that also gets bigger each time you use its effect or another Evil Eye spell trap, plus a spell trap negate, which I think is huge in my opinion for just a single card investment. And you get to this line whether you have Pareidolia, Cerseal, or the Unleashed. All three of these cards get you to this exact same end board off of a one card line, and we have 10 different ways to access this one card package, which is crazy. So it's obviously very consistent, and part of the reason why I like the Evil Eye so much is because I feel like they play better into hand traps than like the Beckoning Beast package does, or Samsara Lotus, for example, because even if the Cerseal doesn't resolve, at least we still keep it a body on the board, unlike like Samsara Lotus, who tributes for cost. If we like get ashed, depending on how our hand looks, we're probably stuck dead in the water. But at least we maintain a body with Surzeal. And if we hard open something like Unleashed, which is a 3 of anyway, they just get punished anyway. Like, they hand trapped us for no value because we still get to our full combo regardless, which I think is really cool. And then, like I said, with the Surzeal effect, or the Gorgon effect for that matter, during the next standby phase, after you use their effects to either negate or pop, depending on who you're referring to, you can use those like negative effects to proc your Yubel monsters by blowing up your own cards preemptively and triggering your Yubel effects that way, which I really like instead of just relying on your opponent to do it. So that's another reason why I think Evil Eye pairs really nicely with the Yubel stuff. But like I said, that's a simple 1-card lineup of you get a monster negate and a spell trap negate off of just 1 card, which I think is pretty good value considering. And it's not like the monster is easy to deal with either, because like I said, it can't be targeted or be destroyed by battle or card effects, which a lot of decks are going to struggle with naturally anyway. So now that we did that 1-card Evil Eye line, I want to show you guys the 1-card Yubel line. Now this can either start with a Lotus or a Nightmare Throne. Now, we play 3 Throne and only 2 Lotus, because again, I value Surzeal's normal summon more than Lotus's normal summon, so I wanted to cut down on the ratios. We're playing 3 Squirmer, for those of you who haven't seen the profile, which again is linked in the description below. So, we have less of a chance to open the 1-card Yubel package, because like I said, with the Evil Eye package, the 1-card combo, we have 10 different ways to get to it. With the Yubel lineup, we have triple Throne, 2 Lotus, and 1 Terraforming, which basically gives us 6 ways to access it. So, still pretty good, just not as consistent as opening the Evil Eye package. But, with that being said, doesn't matter whether we start with Throne or Lotus. I guess, if we're really trying to, like, show you guys what the ceiling is, we should start with Throne, but, which makes more sense anyway, because we're more likely to open Throne than we are to open Lotus, because we play 3 Throne plus Terraforming, so we have 4 copies of Throne versus 2 copies of Lotus, technically. So let's just start off with the Throne lineup, just like we did with the Evil Eye stuff. We started with Paradolia anyway. So if we have Nightmare Throne, this is where things can get kind of interesting. So we'll activate Nightmare Throne, search for a copy of Samsara D Lotus to our hand. We will then normal summon our Samsara D Lotus, and then proceed to activate its effect to tribute itself, and special summon a Yubel monster from our deck. Now this is why I say that I like the Evil Eye package better, because if the Samsara Lotus gets ashed, we're kind of cooked depending on how the rest of our hand looks. I feel like this is a very vulnerable line to go down, and you should only do it in the scenarios that you absolutely have to. Whereas if you commit to the Evil Eye, like Surzeal normal summon, even if it gets ashed, you still maintain a pretty decent body, and because you play some of the other Evil Eye lineup like Unleashed and the equips, sometimes the opponent just gets punished anyway if you've already hard opened Selene or hard opened Unleashed, or have access to any other extender like Squirmer. You can still keep committing to the board. So with that being said though, assuming this resolves, Samsara Lotus will go ahead and special summon from our deck a copy of the Spirit of Yubel, and then we'll activate the effect of Spirit of Yubel, searching our copy of Nightmare Pain, or setting it to field depending on how we're feeling. Once we have it, we'll activate Nightmare Pain. We'll then go Nightmare Pain to pop the Spirit of Yubel, to then search for our copy of Gruesome Grave Squirmer, and then we'll go ahead and trigger the graveyard effect of Spirit, and then chain block it with Nightmare Throne. Since a Yubel on field was destroyed, we'll go Throne to search to our hand, and then special summon, ignoring its conditions, the Terror Incarnate, and then Spirit of Yubel from the graveyard will resolve to special summon a Yubel from basically anywhere. Now at this point, we can special summon our Gruesome Grave Squirmer as a quick effect, because we control a fiend. And you can choose to destroy a Yubel or a monster that mentions it here. It's entirely up to you, realistically, but it's not required in the slightest. I think in this particular scenario, we're just going to go ahead and not destroy anything. We're just going to go Squirmer and Incarnate to link them off for our Unchained line through our Yama, as I like to call it, Yama Mama. So we'll go ahead and summon the Unchained Soul Lord of Yama. Use its effect to search for our Sharvara from our deck or grave to hand. And then at this point, we're in a pretty good position, obviously. We could then go Gruesome Grave Effect, banish itself to special summon a monster with 0/0. So we can bring back our Spirit of Yubel here. Then we can go at Resolution Sharvara, target the spirit to blow it up, special Sharv, trigger spirit again because it was destroyed and it's not once per turn on the destruction effect to float into another copy of Yubel. Just getting them out of the deck and trying to deck thin so we don't brick on our top decks for our follow-up. And then at that point, we can then go Yama plus Sharv to link into the Blue Dog Unchained Soul of Rage, who is confirmed to be getting a reprint in the Rarity Collection 2, which at time of recording should be dropping sometime next week. So really exciting to hear that. So this card is a lot more budget now. And then at this point, there's obviously, before we forget, resolve the graveyard effect of Sharvara to set our copy of our Unchained Trap from our deck to our side of the field. Make sure you don't forget that. It's just free advantage, so you want to make sure you're abusing that effect and not selling yourself short by forgetting stuff. I do play the Abominable. I know some people like to play the one that pops 2. I forget, Escape, if I'm not mistaken. Escape of the Unchained. Personally, I'm a fan of the Abominable just because I like the graveyard revival that it provides, especially if the Rage gets outed preemptively. You know, it's just really good to have that kind of follow-up and keep that pressure on your opponent. Now, at this point, what we can do here is we can choose to just leave the Yubels on the field, go straight to our end phase where we'll trigger our mandatory effect of Yubel to tribute the other copy of Yubel, and then on a new chain, we'll then go Samsara Lotus because we control the original Yubel and special summon it, giving us, you know, the ability to change our opponent's effect and quick link with one of their monsters. Now, if you don't want to do that because you feel like this loses too hard to like Lightning Storm or Evenly Matched, for example, or like Harpy's Feather Duster, or you can actually, instead of going down that route, what you'll do with the 2 copies of Yubels, you'll overlay them for your Virudis, and that at least gives you an Omni Negate on your board, so you don't really lose as hard to stuff like Thrust, Talents, or, you know, any of the blowout cards, and you still maintain the Soul of Rage, and then obviously you have Yamo set up engraved to, when something's destroyed, to banish and revive, which is obviously really strong. Now keep in mind this is off of a 1-card line, so you can kind of see the advantage you're occurring off of 2 really powerful 1-card Fiend engines. In this case, this one being the Yubel engine, and in the first combo being the Evil Eye package. You get to some pretty interesting stuff. Now, what happens when you combine those engines together? Like, how can you actually increase the ceiling of these combos? And that's what I'd like to show you before we start doing our test hands. I want to show you guys what we can do with access to both engines simultaneously. Now, we can do this as a 2-card setup or a 3-card setup. The 2-card setup would be just Throne plus Pareidolia, or the 3-card setup would be including Squirmer. Now keep in mind, all of these cards are 3-ofs in the deck, so the likelihood of you opening them is extremely high. I think for the purposes of this particular combo, I mean, I'll just show you guys with the Squirmer. That way you guys can get like the full benefit. So this will be a 3-card combo, but it has an insanely high ceiling. So, and it also allows us to play through cards like Nibiru, which I really enjoy. So what we're going to do is we're going to lead with our Pareidolia here, searching for our copy of Surzeal, who again is the deck's normal summon of choice. We will then go ahead and normal summon our Surzeal and trigger the effect to search. Now this is what I like about Surzeal, is that because he is a fiend and Gruesome Grave Squirmer is just a generic fiend extender, we can still chain our Squirmer here to special a body on the board. Even if the Surzeal gets negated, it really doesn't matter in the grand scheme because we're still able to put 2 fiends on board to go into our Unchained line, or even Hard Make Gorgon, for example, depending on how our hand looks. What am I looking for again? Sorry. Lost my train of thought. I'm grabbing an Evil Eyes Unleashed off of the Surzeal. Now, like I was saying before, we don't want to preemptively shotgun this too soon because for the remainder of the turn, we're going to keep taking 500 damage, and obviously that's not great. So we want to hold onto this for as long as possible, and what we want to do here is we want to go ahead and extend using our copy of Surzeal and Squirmer to just start link climbing now. We're going to go ahead and make our Yama Mama, Unchained Soul Lord of Yama. Trigger the Yama effect to search for our copy of Sharvara, which hopefully I could find it easily. There we go. And now we can actually get into some pretty crazy stuff. We can, now that we've exhausted the usefulness of Pareidolia here, We can send it to grave to just activate our copy of Throne. Throne effect, and this is where things get kind of interesting. We're actually going to add our Lotus to our hand. Now, you're probably wondering, well, why do that? Because we've already normal summoned a Surziel. Well, this is why the Squirmer is so insanely powerful, because we can now banish the Squirmer from grave to then go ahead and special summon a Fiend with 0 attack and defense from our hand or our graveyard, which will be our copy of Lotus. We'll then use Lotus effect, tributing itself to then special a Yubel from the deck, which will obviously be our copy of the Spirit of Yubel. Trigger Spirit to search for Nightmare Pain. Then what we can do here is there's quite a few things we can do, honestly. We can go activate Nightmare Pain, Pain to pop the Spirit, and search for... We can either grab Eternal Favorite, or we can also grab our copy of Mature Chronicle. I think we'll grab Mature Chronicle here in this particular case. Then at resolution, we'll trigger Spirit and Nightmare Throne since a Yubel was destroyed. We'll go Throne to grab our copy of Terror Incarnate, ignoring its summoning conditions, adding it to hand first, and then special summoning it. And then off the Spirit, we'll go ahead and grab Yubel. Now at this point, what we can do here is we can go ahead and activate our Mature Chronicle, putting a counter on it each time a Yubel or a monster that it mentions it is special summoned, which is really nice. And let's see here. There's quite a few ways we can go about this. We can go Yama plus Terror and immediately link for our blue dog. Then we can go Sharvara effects, target Yubel, pop the Yubel to special Sharv, trigger Yubel to bring out Terror back from our grave, placing a counter on Mature. We just grab a dice really quickly to represent that counter. So Mature Chronicle's got 1 counter on it. Now what we can do here is we can link off the Rage plus the Sharvara. Couple of ways we can do this. We can go into... We can make our Anguish, trigger the graveyard effect of our Sharv to set our copy of our Trap, which will be our Abominable. And now, because we've already committed... now, if they Nibiru us here, it really doesn't matter, because like I said, we still have the Unleash play, and this is why I like the Evil Eye package. But at this point, what we can do is we can now... there's actually quite a few things we can do, honestly. It's pretty broken. We can now go Unleashed. We're going to, for cost, send Gorgonale and our Basiltris to search out our copy of Selene from the deck to our hand. Now, keep in mind, now that we've committed to Unleashed at resolution for the remainder of the turn, we take 500 damage for each non-Evil Eye card or effect we choose to use, which is okay. We can now go Gorgonale effect, banish itself, discard Selene, to then search for an Evil Eye card. Now, you would think we would search for the Trap here, but in this particular case, we're not going to. We're actually going to search for Re-Emergence, which is a very interesting card. I know a lot of you don't know. What it does is we can activate it, and it produces an Evil Eye token to our field. However, for the rest of the turn, we're locked into Fiends, but that's really not a problem. So we're going to produce our Evil Eye token here. But now that we control an Evil Eye monster, our Basiltris is now live. It can special summon itself, which is obviously really, really strong. And now at this point, we can take our token and our Terror Incarnate and link them off for our copy of the Gorgon, which we can put there. That will trigger Actually, well, do we want to use the Graveyard Effect of Unleash? You know what? We're not. We're not going to do that because I want to maintain the Basilisk on our opponent's turn so we can quick link into Zerziel on their turn. What we're going to do is use Celine's own Graveyard Effect, banishing a Evil Eye card from grave, which will be Pareidolia, and we can reset itself at the cost of 1,000 life points. A little steep, but honestly worth it because now we can just hard activate Celine, equipping it to our Gorgon now, enabling our negate. And then at this point, what we can do is we can then use Mature Chronicle, pull the one counter off of it to special summon our Yubel. We'll take 500 damage. Again, that's really negligible here. And we'll just go straight into our end phase where we'll activate our Lotus to special, but then we'll use Yubel's effect after that to then just tribute the Lotus, since we have to tribute a monster. I guess alternatively, you can also tribute Anguish and keep the Lotus out. Maybe we'll do that because that seems a little bit better, honestly. And then this would effectively be our end board. Now, this doesn't look crazy, but keep in mind, as soon as the opponent draws for turn, we can then go Abominable to then bring back our Soul of Rage. So we can quick link on our opponent's turn. And if you look at this, we have so much disruption here. Mind you, we have Nightmare Pain out, so they can't attack anything. They're forced to attack our Yubel. We can change the effect of one of their monsters with Lotus and pop the Yubel to bring out Terror, which will then trigger Yama if we so wish. We can quick link with a Rage into an SP Little Knight to then, banish an additional card. So this is already 1 disruption, 2 disruptions. If you make the Little Knight, 3 disruption, possibly 4 if we can trigger her other effect as well. Then through Gorgon, we have a negate. Keep in mind she can't be targeted or be destroyed, so that's another disruption. And then we can also quick link using the Basilisk plus Gorgon to make our Zerziel ruler of the Evil Eyed, who's an additional disruption. And then what we can do is, because we link summon an Evil Eye link, we can use the Graveyard effect of our Unleashed, banishing itself to re-equip Celine to our Zerziel. There's just so many crazy things we can do, honestly. And like I said, and you get all the follow-up with, like I said, Yama is still in the graveyard. So if anything gets destroyed, we're off to the races pretty much, while also building up counters on Mature during the opponent's turn to give us even more follow-up. So like I was saying, it's a very insane board, and that was off of a 3-card combo, which wasn't hard to achieve. That was upwards of 6 disruptions, because you have 1, 2, 3. Then when you make the Zerziel, that's 4. When you make SP, that's 5, possibly 6 if you use her additional effects. Plus, like I said, we can trigger Yama Engrave if anything tries to get outed preemptively. We just have a lot of follow-up and a lot of gas. So that's, like I said, a 6 disruption board off of just a 3-card combo that's pretty consistent to open with, because, again, we're maxing out on all these cards, and everything is searchable. We didn't have to open with those 3 cards specifically to pull that off. We could have, in place of Pareidolia, had Zerziel, or in place of Throne, had Squirmer. You know what I mean? There was just so many different ways we could have went about that, which is obviously really cool. So that's why I wanted to do the combos and test hands, because like I said, this isn't as cut and dry as you would think it is. It does have a very high ceiling, in my opinion, and it's just so fun to play. Like I said, I don't even care if it's not the most, the best way to play Yubel, but it is really fun, and it's just, I get to play, Evil Eyes, and it's one of my favorite archetypes, so really, really cool with that. So, like I said, this video is going to be a bit longer. Now that we got the combos out of the way, why don't we do an actual test hand, so you guys can truly see what the deck actually plays like off the draw. Hopefully you guys are enjoying the content. Like I said, if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, subscribe. We're working our way to 2,000 subs, and I need your help to get there. I appreciate all the love and support that the channel's already received thus far. I know you guys tend to like a lot of the content that I bring you, because it's things that mostly other YouTubers won't necessarily focus on. And I'm proud of that, honestly. That's my niche, and I'm just going to roll with it. So hopefully you guys are enjoying yourselves. Like I said, like the video, comment down below on what you think of the combos. I always enjoy hearing people's opinions, whether they're good or bad. I mean, I take constructive criticism quite well. So, feel free to chime down in the comments your thoughts. But like I said, I'm not sitting here saying that this version is the best Yubel variant you should be playing. I just feel like for what it is, it has a pretty high ceiling, and it's just really fun to play. And like I said, a lot of decks don't really have natural outs to the Evil Eyes because of how sticky they are and how big they can actually get, you know, gaining the 500 attack off the Selene boost each time, which is huge. So we're going to play this hand like we're going first. I already pile shuffled and cut. If we brick, we brick. I mean, this is the purpose of why I do these live, so you guys can see the raw, you know, realism of it all. So we got Shavara, Terra Incarnate, already off to a great start. You guys already feel my pain. Speaking of pain, Nightmare Pain, and we have Surziel. So this hand is actually really good outside of hard opening Sharv and hard opening Terra. This card is literally glued to my hand. For those of you wondering, this is why I don't play Ultimate Nightmare, because even though it's a one of, I somehow always draw them. Like it blows my mind. 48 card deck list. Literally pulled 2 one-ofs in my starting hand, but it is what it is. Luckily, the remaining 3 cards we have in our hand are pretty gas, so we're gonna proceed as follows. We are going to normal summon our Surziel. Now, this is what I was saying why I like the Evil Eye package so well, because we already have Unleashed, so if Surziel gets negated, we don't care. We honestly really don't. The opponent could waste a hand trap, it really doesn't matter. But again, this is just a test hand, so we're gonna just assume that these things resolve. So off the Surziel, in this particular case, since we already have Unleashed, we can actually just go ahead and hard search the Retribution here, giving us that spell Trap Negate, which is really valuable in my opinion, especially in a deck like Yubel that has a hard time putting up a spell Trap Negate naturally, outside of cards like Virudis, which sometimes you can't always get to depending on your lines. So at Resolution, now we did that. Now we can do a couple of things here. Let's go Nightmare Pain. Let's use Pain to pop the Terror Incarnate in our hand. We won't get value off of it, unfortunately, but at least we get the Garnet out and we get to search for a playable card. Which... what do we want it to be? I guess we can just grab our copy of Squirmer, I suppose. It's not great, but it's better than nothing, because we've already exhausted the normal summon, so searching something like Samsara Lotus just doesn't make sense. So we'll go Pain, grab Squirmer. Now what we can do is we can actually special out the Squirmer from our hand since we control a Fiend, and we already have Sharv, so making Yama doesn't even seem that great either. I guess... here, you know what we do? We go Sharv, target Squirmer, and we destroy the Squirmer to then bring out our copy of Sharvara. We don't really get any value because the Squirmer doesn't have any effects when it's destroyed, obviously. Which is fine. I'm not saying that it has to. Give me one quick second, just having some audio difficulties here. Alright. Okay, so anyway, where was I? So we go Sharv, pop Squirmer, just to put it in the graveyard. And at this point, we can then... how do we want to do this? I guess we can link the Surziel and the Sharv for our copy of... let's just make Yama anyway. Then we'll trigger Sharv Engrave, trigger Yama to add back Sharv. And then our Yama, or I'm sorry, our Sharvara, excuse me, we'll go ahead and set our Abominable. Chamber of the Unchained here. Now we get the Sharv back in the hand, which is fine for follow-up. Now what we can do here is we can go Unleashed, paying our cost by sending Gorgoneo and our Basiltris to search for our copy of Selene. And this is what I was saying, how we tend to hold our Unleashed for as long as possible. We don't commit it because we want to mitigate the 500 life point loss for each consecutive non-Evil Eye card or effect we use after resolution of this. So we grab our Selene to our hand. Now what we can do is we can go Graveyard Effect of Gorgoneo. Pitching... it's banishing itself and pitching the Selene. That will allow us to search for an Evil Eye spell trap, which will be our copy of Reemergence. Then activate Reemergence, producing a token. Because we control an Evil Eye token now, we can go ahead and special summon our Basilisk from grave. Now, here's what we can do that's kind of interesting. We can actually now take our Yama and our token, who is a fiend, to just make our rage. Now you're probably wondering, okay, how does this work? So we're gonna set Retribution. Keep in mind we have the Sharvara in the hand still. And now we're gonna use the graveyard effect of our own Selene. We're not gonna link here, at least not yet, because we want to keep Unleashed in our graveyard for our opponent's turn. We're just going to use Selene's own effect to banish an Evil Eye spell trap, which in this case will be Reemergence. Pay 1,000 life points and set our Selene to our spell trap zone. Now what we'll do is we'll activate our Selene and equip it to our Basilisk. Now you're probably wondering, well, what does this accomplish? And you'll see. We'll keep the Sharv in hand and we'll pass turn. On the opponent's turn, we can use Basilisk's effect to quick link, but he can also use the equips as if they were monsters. So we can actually just link summon into our Gorgon here during the opponent's turn. Now we can trigger our effect of our Unleashed, since we link summon an Evil Eye link, banishing it to then equip the Selene to our Gorgon, and that's how we get access into our Link 2 here. Pretty cool line if I do say so myself. And we still maintain the Yama engrave. We don't really get access into our Yubel line just because of the hand we were dealt. Obviously, if we had drawn like Spirit or the regular Yubel, we could have taken this farther, since we do have a Nightmare Paint up. But it's okay. I mean, it's not the end of the world. We still have the quick link through Rage, plus the negate off the Gorgon with Abominable, just in the event that they do out the Rage. Plus, we have our Spell Trap negate still, which is obviously really strong, plus Yama for follow-up as well, which I really do like. So that's going to be our first particular test hand, which I think is still a pretty cool end board. I mean, you still get a decent amount of disruption, despite how suboptimally we opened, drawing basically 2 bricks, which were the Terror plus the Sharv. Plus, because we added the Sharv back to hand, we can actually go Sharv, pop Rage, like preemptively, especially if Rage is going to get like Imperm, for example. That'll special the Sharv, trigger the Rage to add back something like Surzeal for follow-up, and then we can then go banish our Yama to then just bring out Rage again, which is obviously really strong. So there's a couple of things we can do by having the Sharv back in our hand. Just wanted to point that out to you guys. So that's going to wrap up. It's getting kind of long. I think if you guys want to see more test hands, let me know. I can always do a part 2 to this video, but I want to keep the video sub 40 minutes, so we're already getting long. Hopefully you guys enjoyed what you saw, and this gives you some idea of what Evil Eye Yubel can actually do. But with that being said, guys, thank you all so much for the love and support. Like and subscribe if you're not already. Make sure you check out the deck profile if you haven't done so, and stay tuned for more really amazing Yu-Gi-Oh content soon to come your way. With that being said, this is Nick, hitting that end phase. Peace.